with the front?
답은 아이처럼 그렇고.
monastic affairs and development to explain to our international audience here about the procession that you saw moments ago when Her Majesty arrived. Kempola, if you could do the honors.
Lasola, with greetings to Honorable Lempos, Tashos, secretaries, distinguished speakers, participants within Bhutan and outside. It has come ad hoc to brief the procession that we had just concluded in the reception of Her Royal Majesty the Kelium Ashitojo Moachuk. As most of our Bhutanese are well aware and well oriented in the chieftain processions and the marching ceremony, but in the interest of the international participants and speakers, so I'm privileged and honored to outline the significance of the chieftain procession. The chieftain procession in Bhutanese context is deeply rooted in the Bhutanese culture and the Buddhist tradition. The chieftain procession is a traditional ceremony procession in Bhutan, often held to mark the beginning of significant occasion or state events like today. It is a deep symbolic and a striking feature of ritual that reflects the Bhutanese and the royal tradition, which it is the procession of auspicious welcome. It symbolizes the path to the success, the enlightenment, or like today's event, it symbolizes the beginning with auspiciousness, purification, and respect. And one of the components of the chieftain procession is the marching ceremony or the offering of oblation, which again it is the offering to our primary, to the primary and the secondary, and also to the local deities, seeking their protection, blessing in general for the success conduct of this event, and also seeking their continued protection, blessing to protect the Buddha Dharma and to protect ourselves like today who have gathered here to explore, to share our common values in pursuit of not only individual happiness, but also a global peace and harmony. As we have witnessed the two components of the auspicious welcome ceremony, I think I may not have to go deep, but I think I might have just outlined a brief, the surface, the significance and importance of the chieftain ceremony, or which symbolizes the auspicious welcoming, in general welcoming the chief guests to preside over the event today. One of the purpose of this this remarkable procession is to welcome important figures such as our beloved king, today our beloved royal grandmother Aji Turjomo Wangchuk, or sometimes a highly qualified lama or any dignitaries who are or who is invited to preside over the event or a particular ceremony. It is also conducted during the national celebrations, royal weddings, religious consecrations, or even the enthronements. And symbolically, it prepares or it purifies the space for a sacred or important event by removing the obstacles, unforeseen circumstances, and invoking or seeking the divine intervention for the protection and blessing which enable for the successful conduct of this very important event at the Tungkar Zone. So with this, I would like to thank for giving me this very ad hoc opportunity to outline the short significance and importance of chiplet procession. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lakimpo. It was ad hoc, but I'm sure our international participants and delegates got the gist of why we do the way we do, and we are blessed. The air has been purified. We look forward to a wonderful two-day event ahead. Before I go off and we wait for Her Majesty to grace us, a few house rules. I would like to request our audience not to take pictures of Her Majesty with your phone. The official photos of the event will be posted on the Narayana Foundation's Facebook page later on, so you'll get your pictures of Her Majesty later. Of course, during the tea breaks and lunch break, you have the luxury of taking your own pictures in the event, but please do not take pictures of Her Majesty. And I would like to request everyone to put your mobile phones on silent mode. And the restrooms are all around the venue. You can find it that side, even towards this door and towards this door, you can find the restrooms. And if you all need any assistance, you'll find people with the volunteer tag and organizing team tag. So please don't hesitate to get in touch with them, call them out, and they will be at your service. Your Majesty, Geyum Dojo Mawangchuk, Excellencies, dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, Kuzu Zampula, and welcome to the conference on operationalizing gross national happiness in Bhutan and beyond. This conference is being held to commemorate the 78th birth anniversary of His Majesty the 4th Druk Gyalpo and His Holiness the 70th Jekimpo Tiku Jimi Chöda, under the royal patronage of Her Majesty, the Queen Mother, Doji Omo Wangchuk. It is being jointly organized by the Taraina Foundation and the Georgetown Institute of Open and Advanced Studies, Wawasan Open University, Malaysia. A round of applause to the organizers. Ladies and gentlemen, let me share a story. In 1979, a young king was stopped by a group of Indian journalists at the Bombay airport. He was on his way back from a summit in Cuba. Curious, one reporter asked, "We do not know much about your country, Bhutan. What's your gross national product?" The king simply replied, "We do not measure success by gross national product." He went on to say, "Because for us, gross national happiness is far more important." And that day, His Majesty, the fourth King of Bhutan, King Jigme Singye Wangchuk, introduced to the world his philosophy of gross national happiness. Let me share another story. This one is an ordinary one. Sometime in 1992, at the Jimmy-Doji Wangshu National Referral Hospital in Thimphu, a Shachop mother, a woman from the eastern part of Bhutan, and a Nalup father, a man from the western part of Bhutan, gave birth to a baby boiler. Nothing grand, just a quiet arrival in the capital. But the boy received every bit of care: pre- and postnatal, vaccinations, follow-ups, all without his humble parents having to pay a single penny. As he grew, the pillars of gross national happiness held him up. Clean air, nutritious food from his village, safe neighborhoods, free public schooling, and later university, time with his elders, values, festivals, and a sense of belonging. He didn't know it then, but he was living gross national happiness. Not as a policy, not as a slogan, but as a way of life. That boy grew into a man, and today, with gratitude and a deep sense of appreciation of what shaped him, he stands here, content, hopeful, and honored to serve as your Master of Ceremony for the conference on Operationalizing GNH in Bhutan and beyond. Your Majesty, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sharab Doji, and I have the honor of serving as your Master of Ceremony over the next 2 days. And over the course of our time together, we will explore catalyzing mindsets and technologies for well-being centered, village-led development. Now, to open this important gathering, it is only fitting that we hear from one of the organizations closest to the heart of GNH and to Her Majesty's vision for Bhutan. May I now welcome Ms. Sonam Pem, the Executive Director of Taraina Foundation, to deliver the welcome address.
Your Majesty, Gyalum Doji Wangmo Wangchuk, Excellencies, esteemed speakers, and ladies and gentlemen, Kuzuzangpala, and a very warm welcome to each one of you. It is with profound joy and deep reverence that we gather today at the sacred grounds of Tongkarzong under the gracious royal patronage of Her Majesty, the Queen Mother, Doji Wangmo Wangchuk, an enduring emblem of compassion, wisdom, and visionary leadership. We are especially honored to dedicate this occasion to the 70th birth anniversaries of two extraordinary figures whose lives have profoundly shaped the spiritual and developmental journey of our nation. His Majesty, the Great Fourth, King Jigme Singye, the most revered visionary architect of gross national happiness, and His Holiness, the J. Kempo Tikujimi Cheda, a spiritual luminary whose steadfast guidance has illuminated the path of countless Bhutanese. This gathering is more than a conference. It is a timely convergence of minds and hearts at a critical juncture in our shared human journey. We come together in a world that stands at a defining crossroads, a world challenged by ecological degradation, rising inequality, and social fragmentation, yet still brimming with possibility of renewal. In this moment of global uncertainty, we are called not merely to critique the prevailing development paradigm, but to reimagine it altogether, moving beyond extraction and expansion toward a vision rooted in wholeness, dignity, and flourishing of all life. This conference aspires to be a space for deep listening, courageous reflection, and wise action. It calls us to look beyond conventional matrix and policy language and to reawaken our shared understanding of development as harmony among people, with nature, and within ourselves. Bhutan has long dared to imagine an alternative path, one that's centered on gross national happiness. At Tarayana Foundation, we have been deeply committed to translating this visionary philosophy into lived reality at the grassroots, working hand in hand with our villages, where the true pulse of meaningful transformation beats strongest. From the very beginning, our efforts have drawn upon a wide range of expertise, from community mobilization and rural innovation to social entrepreneurship, climate resilience, and inclusive development. It is in this spirit that we felt the time was right to organize and co-host this important conference. It offers us a timely opportunity to reflect, share our journey, and learn from others, to deepen our understanding, strengthen our approach, and explore ways to scale and extend this model beyond Bhutan's borders, where it may offer fresh inspiration to the global development discourse. We extend our deepest gratitude to our partners, the Georgetown Institute of Open and Advanced Studies and Wawasan Open University of Malaysia, the DHI Innotech, as well as to all our distinguished national and international participants. You bring with you a diversity of insights and a shared commitment to forging a new development model that sees no divide between economy and ecology, between progress and purpose. Over the course of the next 2 days, we shall explore questions of urgent relevance. How can we shift prevailing mindsets from fragmentation to interconnectedness? In what ways might technology and finance be reoriented to serve the sacred, not merely the profitable? And how can the village, rather than the boardroom, become the locus of meaningful, sustainable development? This is not an ordinary gathering. It is a convening of conscience, a moment to remember that the well-being of one is inextricably linked to the well-being of all. That the earth is not merely a resource, but a living relative. And that true development is not a race to accumulate, but a return to balance. Let us walk forward together, not only as thinkers, practitioners, and leaders, but as humble learners, guided by ancient wisdom and united by shared hope. May this conference be a spark for systemic transformation, a meeting of minds and hearts, and a meaningful step toward building the world we still believe is possible. Thank you.
Thank you, the Executive Director, Ms. Sonam Pem, for the warm and thoughtful welcome. She mentioned it is more than just a conference, and it is more than just a conference. I would not just say it, you'll see it and hear it over the course of the 2 days. Now, why is it more than a conference? To set the context for the conference, we now invite Ms. Sneha Podar. She's the head of international at the Georgetown Institute of Open and Advanced Studies and a strategist working at the crossroads of policy, technology, and consciousness. Please join me in welcoming Sneha Podar.
Your Majesty, Your Excellencies, and dignitaries, guest speakers, and panelists, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all here to this gathering. Namaste, good morning, and Kuzuzampula. On behalf of Georgetown Institute of Open and Advanced Studies, it is my deepest honor to welcome you to this gathering. We have come together today across borders, disciplines, life journeys, united by a shared longing to explore how we might build a future rooted in true well-being, harmony, and happiness. Before I set the stage for our conversations, allow me to share my own story. It is a story that led me here and perhaps reflects a journey familiar to many of us. I was born in the year the world held its first Earth Summit, a moment when humanity acknowledged with hope that our survival depends on how we care for this earth we all share. Yet I grew up in an era shaped by liberalization, privatization, and globalization, where success was measured increasingly by GDP, and the deeper values that sustain life were often set aside. I trained as a chartered accountant, taught to read balance sheets and quantify progress in numbers. But even as I pursued material success, my heart longed for something more, for meaning, for purpose, for happiness that could not be found in any ledger. As I transitioned from my childhood to adulthood, I came to understand a difficult truth. In a world driven by GDP, qualities like compassion, benevolence, and sensitivity are too often seen as weaknesses. And for someone like me who feels the world deeply, this made the path forward challenging. And perhaps this is not just my experience. Today, across the world, even as economies grow and technology advances, we see a quiet crisis unfolding. Mental health challenges, depression, anxiety, loneliness are on the rise everywhere. In our pursuit of material growth, we seem to have drifted further from the happiness and inner peace we seek. The need for a different way, a different measure of progress, has never been more urgent. It was during the pandemic that life offered me an unexpected gift. I found myself in Bhutan, sheltered here for 8 months. And in that stillness, I encountered gross national happiness, not as a lofty ideal, but as a lived reality. Bhutan showed me that another way is not only possible, it is necessary. That experience gave my life new direction and new meaning. When I returned to India, I could no longer walk the same path. I approached the leaders of my city, hoping to plant a small seed. Could we guide our city's development by something greater than GDP? Could we begin, as Bhutan does, by filling our public spaces with symbols of shared values rather than billboards? My proposal was received with kind words, but not with action. And I realized that it is easier said than done. Disheartened, but but determined, I choose to live behind my privileged city life and move to the Himalayas to nourish my own spirit and to learn from the grassroots what it truly takes to bring well-being and happiness to life. In these years, I have been blessed to work with wise minds, thought leaders, compassionate hearts, and to engage in research on the root causes of our shared challenges. And what I have seen is clear: our problems are not isolated. They are interconnected, part of a single larger system. And so must be our solutions. No single action, no single nation can do this alone. Bhutan, with all its vision and courage, cannot fully realize gross national happiness without the cooperation of the wider world. We are all interdependent. Each choice we make, each action we take, shapes our collective reality in every moment. And so this conference invites us to ask, how do we heal the disconnections within ourselves, within our societies, and between humanity and nature? Over the coming days, we will reflect on the true meaning of development, what it means to truly flourish. We will explore how self-awareness and self-realization can form the foundation of outer change. We will look at how education can nourish the whole human being, how mindful social codes and laws can foster justice and compassion, how enlightened design can bring harmony to our communities, and how technology guided by wisdom can help us bring gross national happiness to life at scale. It could come at no more meaningful moment than now, as we celebrate the 70th birthday of the pioneers of this philosophy, His Majesty, the Great Fourth King, Jigme Singye Wangchuk, whose vision gifted this idea to the world, His Eminence, the Khenpo, whose spiritual guidance has sustained it, and Her Majesty, the Queen Mother, Aji Dorji Wangmo Wangchuk, whose life of service has inspired countless hearts. Aji, I offer my deepest personal gratitude for your compassion, for your courage, and for being a beacon of hope to all of us who seek a better way. As we gather, let us also remember less than 20% of the Sustainable Development Goals have been fulfilled globally. The need to act is urgent, especially in Hindu Kush Himalayan region, where the stakes are so high and where the world looks for leadership rooted in wisdom, compassion, and courage. As we open this conference, I offer its merits to the cause of the well-being and enlightenment of all sentient beings. May our efforts here together help create a world where happiness is not a privilege, but is available to all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sneha, for grounding us in the purpose and possibilities for this conference. We'll see as we go on. Now, Your Majesty, ladies and gentlemen, this gathering is held, like I said earlier, under the patronage of Her Majesty Queen Mother Dorji Wangmo Wangchuk, whose lifelong service to the people of Bhutan, especially the vulnerable, continues to shape the nation's path of compassion, equity, and harmony. I can go on and tell the stories from my days in Samtsi of Her Majesty's act of compassion and the benefit that people have received. But if I go on, Your Majesty, I might start crying, so I'll not do that. It is through Your Majesty's vision and enduring leadership that the values of gross national happiness are not just preserved, but lived, like I said, in my story earlier. It is now my deepest honor to invite Your Majesty to deliver the opening address. With utmost humility and reverence, may I request Your Majesty.
Please be seated, everyone. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am so very happy that all of you are here today to attend this very, very important two-day conference. We are gathered here today at a critical point where Bhutan's vision of gross national happiness, a philosophy initiated by His Majesty the Fourth King, offers the world an alternate path forward. This vision, rooted in the belief that true progress goes beyond economic growth, has been made measurable by the Center for Bhutan and GNH Studies. Through 4 pillars, 9 domains, and 33 indicators, we've created a framework to measure happiness, guiding national and local initiatives to prioritize well-being, balance, and fulfillment. Over the last 2 decades, the Tarayana Foundation has worked with communities across Bhutan, learning what happens when development begins with dignity. Our approach honors tradition, amplifies local wisdom, and uses modern solutions for sustainable progress. We have witnessed how this philosophy helps alleviate poverty, restore agency, and encourage both economic growth and cultural preservation. As we navigate the digital age, the opportunity to scale these successes is at hand. Scaling, however, is not about simple replication, it's about amplification. It means enabling communities to discover their own path to transformation while staying connected to a larger movement that balances people and the planet. Tarayana follows 3 guiding principles. 1, human dignity first. Every project respects the inherent worth of individuals, empowering them to shape their own futures. True development cannot exist without dignity. 2, local wisdom matters. Communities possess deep knowledge of their challenges. Our role is not to impose solutions, but to amplify their insights, creating sustainable progress together. 3, true partnerships. We view communities not as recipients of aid, but as co-creators of their future. This shift from dependency to empowerment makes transformation meaningful. Bhutan's philosophy speaks to the potential found in every culture and community. It acknowledges that every region has its unique wisdom, struggles, and dreams. Our goal is to uncover solutions that honor humanity, drawing both from modern and traditional knowledge systems. In today's interconnected world, digital tools allow us to unite communities, enabling them to share innovations and to learn from one another. Technology serves as a tool, unlocking human potential, empowering communities, and facilitating meaningful development. The journey ahead calls for courage to embrace transformation, patience to support both material and mindset shifts, and humility to learn from nature and communities we serve. Over the last 22 years, Tarayana has implemented Bhutan's GNH framework at the grassroots level. We've seen firsthand how successful solutions in one community can be adapted and applied in another. With this knowledge comes a responsibility to share this philosophy and offer a new paradigm for addressing the world's greatest challenges. The world looks to Bhutan not because we are perfect, but because we ask different questions. We acknowledge that economic development is necessary, but so is respecting the environment and human well-being within our traditional cultural heritage. We also know that true development must measure not just the economic achievement, but also the flourishing of people and the planet. For this paradigm to shift, to take root, we need to create a new infrastructure, both physical and digital, as well as new conceptual and financial systems. We need systems that account for the good being done in the world and mechanisms that give economic weight to social transformation. The rise of social stock exchanges is an encouraging step in this direction, where impact is valued just as rigorously as financial returns. We look forward to a world where investors track profits alongside their contribution towards humanity's progress, a world where communities secure funding because they are committed to lasting social good, and organizations like Tarayana are looked upon as essential pillars of human progress rather than just as charities. The good news is that this world is within reach. When well-being is at the center of development, when good work is rewarded, and meaningful impact attracts investment, resources, and energy will flow towards transformation. This will inspire others to join us in this movement of change. I invite you to join us as active partners in this journey, whether you bring technology or traditional knowledge, funding or expertise. There is a place for everyone in this collective effort to transform our world. Together, we can show that a new way is not only possible, but essential so that development honors dignity, progress preserves culture, and transformation uplifts both economies and humanity. Thank you for your support, and I look forward to the impactful work we will achieve together. Tashidile, and thank you very much.
Your Majesty, thank you for your gracious presence and for the inspiring opening address. Your unwavering dedication to the well-being of the people of Bhutan and to the preservation of our values continues to guide and uplift us all. Thank you so much once again, Now, ladies and gentlemen, Bhutan's story of gross national happiness may have started with a royal remark at an airport, but it took root in policy and practice thanks to a man with a pen, a quiet mind, and a deep commitment to values. Dashu Karmaura, Dashu is waiting that side, is a scholar, a poet, and the architect behind the tools that helped measure what many thought was unmeasurable. Happiness to Dashu Karmaura is not just a feeling, it's a framework, so to say. So it is my honor to invite Dashu Karmaura, President of the Center for Bhutan and GNH Studies, to deliver the opening keynote address. Dashu, the stage is yours.
Your revered Majesty, Your Excellency, distinguished guests from abroad and distinguished guests from our own country, may the intention behind this wonderful forum be auspicious, fulfilling, and beneficial. I like to say that to make effective impact by operationalizing implementation of GNH, we must act on those specified variables in the GNH matrix. Direct improvement of GNH index, it depends really on precise actions, although positive action can also come on GNH index through indirect actions, but it would be better to be more precise. As you distinguished guest and Your Majesty already outlined and is completely in comprehension of whole thing, GNH methodology, as you know, incorporates twin concepts of sufficiency and parity, and this too holds up in another way the principal commitment of the government and the state of Bhutan, the people of Bhutan, to sustainability on one hand, and might I say egalitarianism on the other. But GNH methodology or aggregation method gives some statistical and mathematical expression to these ideas, which are somewhat weak elsewhere, in my opinion. Sustainable development and egalitarianism are given, therefore, concrete measurements in parity. The parity here in GNH methodology means that GNH in index is relative to sufficiency. So sufficiency in terms of each variable for each individual. The implication of this is, of course, that if you do anything to address anything which is already sufficient, there is no impact on GNH index. So in this way, it is quite a strict methodology. But GNH also, as you know, incorporates, as Her Majesty already outlined, a range of variables going up to 135. And these diverse variables is directed at rich fulfillment and fulfillment to rich diversity in life, not maximizing one or two things. As I mentioned, the core principles embodied in GNH are sustainable development, which implies, of course, ecological preservation and egalitarianism in politics, economics, and social life. Now, with this very brief background, I would like to, conceptual background, in this esteemed forum, I would like to briefly select and introduce just 2 or 3 areas, such as household income, stress, health, and subjective happiness. The reason why I'm doing this is that they also raise some issues in GNH measurement and findings. And the important thing is to know what are the causes behind some of these things selected from the domains of GNH. I will begin with income, but I will also conclude circling back to the income issue, because this is, as Her Majesty mentioned, is become a deadly obsession of human beings without looking at other things. My presentation really is about income, stress, health, and subjective happiness, and what are their determinants in order for the operationalizer to take into account the causal factors behind these things. Of course, there are many other things in GNH, but the time use, which in itself is a domain of GNH, restricts me. This is just to give what are the variables taken into account in GNH. This is well known, but now I come to income. Household income estimation is methodologically superior to the calculation of GDP, as all of you know, because in GDP you include corporate profits, taxes, depreciation, and imputed rents, etc. But in household income, we do not do these things, but we include such things like remittances and business income. But this is the one which is the main vehicle as far as money goes that supports your living. Here you see the 3 main sources of household income in Bhutan, which corroborates very well with Bhutan Living Standard survey. But this is from GNH. I would like to point out that the income from agriculture, livestock, and forest has been growing at the rate of 3% nominally. But if you factor in inflation, which has been growing at 4 to 5%, this growth is completely wiped out. And so the income from agriculture, livestock, and forestry is either receding or stuck and stagnant. And the implication for those who operationalize on economics front is quite clear from here. And the income from agriculture, livestock, and forestry is now only about 12% of the total household income of 3,31,000, which corresponds to about $3,700 US. But the distinction here is that this is not per capita income, this is household income. And in a house, there are 4 members. That means that the per capita household income is barely 83,000 nultram per year. And this is the gap we have to be very mindful instead of citing GDP per capita, and that has propelled us to leave the LDC countries' status, I think, too prematurely, in my opinion. So it doesn't work. Can you move forward? Thank you. Thank you so much. Which one did you get? No, it didn't. Sorry, can you bring the laptop? I think better. So another thing very rapidly I want to show is that in the household income, there is immense variation on the mean income by district. So that showed there is a huge dispersal around the mean income, which is in Bhutan, as you see. I can't control this. I don't know who's doing it. As the inequality of household income is greater within a district than between districts. This is the most important thing. And in places like Shemgang, Thimphu, Sarpang, Paro, the inequality is much greater within the district, much greater within the districts. Anyway, the implication for you, once again, those who are addressing income generation, is quite clear from here, where the household income is very low within the country. If you act in better off countries, there is no impact on GNH. That's what I wanted to convey. Implication of where the government and NGOs, which have made glorious contribution in recent decades to our country's progress. Now, as regards the causes of earning, it is no great surprise to some extent that the effect size on household income is greatest from qualification. We must distinguish qualification from education. We have not yet come to defining education very well, but qualification can be given by any university, and the pays are fixed according to qualification. So that's making a big difference compared to illiterate people. Followed by such factors like land ownership and being and also the size of the household. So those who are having greater members in their households are richer, and lastly, those who migrate are much richer. Negatively associated factors with income generation are now it is quite obvious: rural residence, and strangely, owning livestock is now associated with poorer household. And the recent change in pasture law and so many things would only degrade this possibility of poverty associated with livestock ownership. Poor health, and this is well known, you can't earn, but being female and aging are also having negative association with household. And I once again laud the activities of Tarayana because they are very targeted towards upliftment of women. And of course also aging, which is contributing to decline in income earning. So operational implications are also quite clear from here. I can show that the asset position is of the migrants are always exceeding the those who do not migrate. And that means that the level of capacity of those who remain behind are getting worse off compared to migrants. Better people are, clever people, able people are moving ahead. So we have to do something substantial with regard to migration. I also, as a child of semi-nomadic family, I became very attached to this kind of calculation, which shows that livestock growth is negative in this country. And no one can live without livestock. This is sheerly impossible as we go forward. And in the next century, a lot of people will not see livestock in this country. They disappear. Mithun, horse, etc. will disappear right in the middle of this century. So we have to do something quite drastic with this. I would now like to talk a little bit about stress, which is a universal phenomena rising in all countries. And stress is measured by package of 12 questions, which is well accepted all over the world. And the findings of this stress survey question built into our GNH can correspond very well with clinical depression, and about 4.3% of our population suffer from severe mental distress, and leading within this 4.3% are female and rural people. At all age groups, females suffer more stress than men. And the finding from Bhutan also show that that we have made great progress in terms of positive mental health. Problems have been getting less and less as less and less people are suffering from sort of the negative one up there. But we can also see that gradually there is less and less people who are feeling somewhat ecstatic and very happy, more than usually happy. The proportion is declining over since 2020, 2025. They are not depressed, but there is also no great elation and joy in their life. That is the main point. The main point I want to say is that our score with regard to normal mental health is very good compared internationally. Where does the stress? I apologize, Your Majesty and distinguished guests. I can't control this. Where does the main stress come from? And these are the negative factors up there and the positive ones. And the thought of suicide, they do not commit suicide, but everyone occasionally has this feeling, and that is so powerfully related to stress, mental stress. Now, what causes the idea of suicide? We found out it is mainly relational breakdown in our country. It is not material. So again, those who forget this kind of thing, it is a warning that we do not focus on economics alone. Being disabled, of course, is the main source of stress, and disability comes here at the age of 58 or so and goes on worsening. 1 disability, 2 disability, 3 disability, 4 disabilities, etc. Being victimized, being unemployed, lacking social support, and again, once again, being female is associated more with mental stress. And those positive ones which reduce stress are having trustworthy relationship, having some sort of satisfaction, which is both material and also something to do with your attitude. And a little bit of influence also comes from having little more income. I won't go into the interpretation of it, but this is the general idea. So there is a stress, severely distressed group increased in this country, perhaps due to COVID in 2022 compared to 2015. And there are some outstanding districts which have been affected by the rise in stress level. You can see that at any age group, the proportion of female who are suffering from severe mental distress is higher than male at any given level. This is a convincing evidence that we have to do something. I also like to say that from the point of view of implementation, we have to have two separate approaches because the statistics confirm that they are distinct phenomena. Addressing negative mental health will not promote positive mental health, and vice versa, because this kind of factor loading confirm that they are independent phenomena. Finally, health, which is a very important input into happiness. If you ask people, what are the 3 most important things you need to increase your happiness? Invariably in our country, second one is health. When we ask people, what is your self-reported diagnosis of ill health, there are 2 outstanding factors, and that is blood pressure and gastritis or reflux of acid. And together, they contribute about 40% of morbidity pattern in this country. This is not going to be solved by consultative approach with doctor staying in the clinical room and waiting for the people. It's much better to go out, and I hope that Tarayana will also adopt a medical aspect to the foundation. I think this would bring back lots of lost days amongst our population, and lots of disability will also be solved thereby. But the implication is not only on medical approach, Medicare, but food supply and food chain, which in my opinion has gone wrong and has been neglected for a long time and given to the market. But the market will bring all kind of cheap and unhealthy things. So, I'd like to say that the health is linked in our country, according to the findings of GNH, vast data set, to aging, not naturally. Every year we add brings us closer to some sort of disability or skeletal, neural, muscular degeneration unless we act against it. But more important thing to note is really gender and availability of knowledge about health is affecting health. So ladies are reporting far worse health than men. And those who have knowledge are reporting far less health problem because they are aware, they go for diagnosis and treatment. So once again, you can see proportion of people, you can see I think this is a very important chart. It's a very important chart. I'm so sorry, this is beyond my control. Main thing is that women are losing more days to sick days from both physical and mental ill health compared to men. Can I wanted to show one chart. I wanted to show one chart where the percentage of people reporting ill health is so steep or higher in eastern Bhutan compared to the rest of the country. And that should have also obvious implication where you put more referral centers. But ours is a bit skewed. The referral system is all in western and southwestern Bhutan. And the number of days lost, which confirms the self-report of ill health, is also very high. In Pema Gasel, on Sitsirang, per month, 4 days nearly lost to illness. Yangtze, 4 days lost to illness, compared to Bumthang, which is fairly rich, or Chukha, is only 1 day is lost to ill health per month. Now you multiply this by 12, obviously you can get the implication. In Tashigang, 4 into 12, 48 days are being lost to sickness and illness in Tashigang or so forth. We need to address this. Last one, subjective happiness. I want to show the result of the regression analysis, which tells us what are the factors that contribute strongly to subjective happiness. Subjective happiness is as you report yourself, 0 to 10. If you're 10, you're our national score is 6+, which is extremely high given our economic status. This is quite close to many countries, including very close to Singapore, which may have multiple times per capita income. So the result here shows us some surprising things. That is that subjective happiness is influenced, first of all, by integrity of the family. So if you have a harmonious, integrated, cooperative family, this is the single most important factor for subjective happiness. And this is not what you will get from evidence from Western countries. So the viability, integrity of the family, which further depends on the viability and the networking with the village, as therefore the community vitality which Her Majesty outlined or pointed out becomes truly important. And that is a different field than economic approach to maintaining happiness. Those who, of course, second most important factor, predictably is health. But thereafter, it is quite surprising that those who perceive government is reducing inequality are much happier, much happier. Those who are not participating in formal labor force are also much happier. Those who report, report that they contribute to environmental preservation are also much happier compared to those who do not say that they contribute to environmental preservation and therefore have some values of environmental preservation. The most surprising result from this analysis is that income is 8th in the rank of determination of subjective happiness. So it is quite low, whereas most people, through illusion, they think this is the most important thing. So, and an increase in 1 unit of income, if you split society into 10 slabs of income, increase in 1 unit of income from, say, 2nd decile to 3rd decile, your subjective happiness increases by 11%. But the overall ranking of the role of income in determination of subjective happiness in our country is quite low. So with this very brief and very erratic PowerPoint, I would like to express my deepest gratitude for this opportunity. May I once again say that the intention behind this forum be auspiciously realized. Thank you very much.
I have a question. Are you all happy? I'm sure when I announce tea break later on, the happiness levels might increase. Although Dr. Dasho Karmora may not agree with that measure of happiness. Anyways, thank you, Dashola, for that thoughtful and grounding keynote. Our next keynote explores how we can take GNH from philosophy to practice by aligning technology with values and systems with spirit. It is my honor to invite Andrew Sheng, chairman of the Georgetown Institute of Open and Advanced Studies, to deliver the keynote address on catalyzing mindset shifts and technology for operationalizing GNH.
Good morning, Your Majesty, Dorji Wangmo Wangchuk, Your Holiness, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is with huge humility that I stand before you today to address you. You have already heard from Her Majesty the awe and majesty, magnificence of the vision of Bhutan. So first, I would like to thank and congratulate the twin birthdays of His Majesty and the spiritual leader. Twin 70th birthday is a very significant event. The second thank that I want to give is to His Majesty for granting us this magnificent hall. You know, this is brand new, that you have given us the, honor of enjoying this awesome space, that when we come with a clear mind, with very disturbed hearts further outside in this very complicated world. Now, when, outsiders or Westerners deliver speech, they always give jokes. They start with a joke. And Easterners start with apologies. And I have to apologize because I come with lots of ignorance. And I apologize if many things, as we outsiders say, in this very refined, cultured, wise society, some of stuff that we say are very crude and maybe very rude. But let me try to explain how we got here. The first thing I want to say that even though I am not a Buddhist by faith, I am a Buddhist by philosophy. And my wife, my partner for nearly 60 years, her mother was a very devout Buddhist, and she has supported me in this very important journey. This journey started when, out of karma, Sneha Poda wrote to me by email, this is technology these days, and said, I am very interested in your idea of the one Earth balance sheet. Now, the commonality between Sneha and myself, other than, wide differences in age, is that we're both chartered accountants and we are bean counters. But the idea of the One Earth balance sheet was that I struggle against my Western training because the most brilliant philosopher, Alvin Toffler, who wrote the book Future Shock, he said that, the West has prided itself of science and technology by taking things apart and studying them in depth. Before Western science, we understood everything as one. But they took it apart and they studied in depth, they found science, and then they created this technology that we enjoy today, and some of us may regret. But that science, Alvin said, we took it apart, we forgot to put it back together again. And what he really meant was in this advance of complexity science is an old Asian philosophy that man and nature are one. So when standing as an economist, and I have been born and sort of submerged in this idea of GDP, I suddenly realized that, my goodness, there is something empty there. And what is that emptiness? My Western Californian philosopher friend came in and said, GDP is rising, the stock market is booming, but the people are unhappy. What does that tell you? It tells you that what is material as measured, by the way, only since 1945, when John Maynard Keynes actually devised the idea of national accounting, climate change and spirituality was not inside his framework, not inside his brain. So the mindset of the most brilliant economists set us on a path of GDP, which was devoid of very important things. And what is that? So I'm going to simplify. Data is escalating to infinity. Wisdom is reducing that data to what we can understand. So in my very simple way, GDP is more is less. The more we consume, the less the earth is happy. The more the people are unhappy. GNH, less is more. The less we have physically, but the more we have emotionally, spiritually, makes us more happy. So therefore, from a physics perspective, the Venn diagram, if I may be very rude, GNH is not an alternative to the existing paradigm. GNH is more. In fact, GDP is only part of a larger whole. So His Majesty, when he thought and understood this vision of GNH, he was speaking the real truth, whereas GDP was only a part of this. Now, the issue that we are now struggling today, as you know, and I don't want to spend too much time, is very classic economics. The why, the what, and the how. And Her Majesty this morning set us, this very difficult question is that whatever we do, we go through GNH as a way of life, and that life is a journey. And that journey has many uncertainties. And because it is uncertain, the only way we can understand that uncertainty and that unknown is to walk that journey. And this is what Bhutan is doing. And this is why I feel, and my wife feels, so emotional. I told Her Majesty this morning, we came, we saw, we were conquered. We understood that you are walking a path is not about gross national happiness. It is about global nature's health, of which we human beings are not masters of nature, but stewards for our environment and our next generations. So once we begin to see this, what I have done what we in Georgetown, in our very small way, has done is to bring our outside friends. And I would like to, sort of end this by basically saying that we are bringing friends. I'm going to go from west to east, okay? Just to show you that Georgetown Open Studies is very open to very different philosophies. We have from United Kingdom, our friends from, University of Glasgow, Professor John Crawford. I'm not going to mention all, specific names, right? Then to Holland, Jan Waschbinder, he's a very old friend, complexity scientist. Then from Germany, Dieter Weiss, and my many Indian friends, many of whom are more known to Sneha than myself, right? Then our friends from China, then from Hong Kong. My Hong Kong friend will explain to you everything about the one country, two systems legal framework that operates, that we understand the Galipu Mindfulness City is operating. Then from Malaysia, and last but not least, my friend from New Zealand, who is one of the most brilliant, Michael Hart, on carbon issues. But I want to mention one specific thing. I brought from the heart of Borneo the first Murut indigenous future tribal chief, Virgil Gunting. Virgil, where are you? Please stand up. Please notice that he is wearing Bhutanese custom. So we want to bring local wisdoms all the way from the indigenous people of Borneo, to share and discuss with yours in Bhutan. Now, I just want to quickly summarize the mapping of this. The way we have mapped all this is that there is total global wisdom available, technology available. There is plenty of money in the world, but small countries like Bhutan does not find it easy to get that knowledge and get that funding. And there is a very famous poem of the ancient mariner when he was stuck on the ocean, water, water everywhere, and not a drop to drink. What I'm saying is that that knowledge and that water, that funding, needs to be brought to the villagers to empower them to empower themselves. Now, Her Majesty this morning brought in this word empowerment, and Dr. Balu from India is exactly saying this. GDP is not enough. We need to empower people. We need to empower women. We need to empower the villagers. So what does Dasho Karma Ura has just said to all of us? He has said happiness basically depends upon the integrity of the home. Home is where the heart is. So when we want to grow the individual, when we want to grow the family, we want to grow the nation, education is important. And from this, I learned from this young man just coming to Bhutan, only 2 days ago, he said the heart of education is the education of the heart. And that goes to the heart of it all. GDP is not about the heart. GDP is about physical energy. It is about mental energy. It is about the energy of dominance and power. GNH is about emotional energy. It is about spiritual energy, which is not within GDP. So coming back to what Dasha Ura has said, happiness therefore is the integrity not just of the family, but of the village. And therefore happiness is about the integrity of the nation. And if the nation is happy, everybody is happy, the planet should be happy. So we need to walk this journey, and we need to walk this, the point that about walking this journey, and Her Majesty, has reminded us, and reminded myself personally. This journey, as Your Majesty said, I'm sorry, my memory is not, so good these days, but it really is about co-creation. So, yesterday, I listened to His Holiness. I was having dinner with His Holiness Gandaji San, when he said to me, enlightenment is about sharing. So today we are going on a journey of enlightenment into the unknown. But we can only walk this path if we walk it together. And so I think, let me quite summarize this, what I'm trying to say today. The Georgetown Institute is a very small institution. Bhutan is a small nation within this great power situation. But if Bhutan has now walked the way, the will have a beacon of hope and light, how to deal with the sins or problems that we have gone from the negative energy of looking only as GDP as the metric of success. On that note, let me thank you all once again for coming here. Specifically, I want to thank the Tarayana Foundation, because it was exactly my discussions with Chime and Sonam, and later on through the Zoom with Her Majesty, that we became to realize that we have the same shared resonance of shared hope, shared pain, shared sacrifice, that we hope the world will be a much better place when we ourselves physically leave this world. On that note, thank you all very much for your attention.
rightly pointed out, happiness is where home is, and I would also like to add, happiness is also where food is. Tea break is not long away, so please have patience. Thank you, Andrew, for that powerful keynote. Your insights on bridging mindsets and technology, the global technology that are out there, to how we can bring it together to advance gross national happiness into practical action gives us much to reflect on. Thank you so much. Now it's time to turn inwards. Andrew mentioned about the inward, the emotional well-being. So let's reflect on what truly grounds gross national happiness. It's spiritual and the ethical heart. We are talking about the heart. So Khenpo Choten Doji, the Secretary of the Monastic Council for Administration and Developmental Affairs, brings a unique blend of deep Buddhist wisdom and modern insight. So in a world where it is overflowing with information, often missing meaning, he will show us why combining wisdom, prajna, and skillful action, upaya, is key to real transformation. Please join me in welcoming Khenpo Choten Doji on the dais.
Your Majesty, Gilium Ajitorium Maungchu, Your Excellency Lempos, Darshos, distinguished speakers from abroad, and speakers and participants within Bhutan and abroad, dear brothers and sisters, Kuzo Zangbola. I'm very much honored and humbled to stand in front of you all as a representative from the Central Monastic body to share some of the reflections from the monastic body of Bhutan on the spiritual foundation of happiness-centered development. As you all know that Central Monastic body is the oldest institution in Bhutan, which is not only mandated to uphold and preserve Buddha Dharma, but also it plays an important role to promote and preserve the national identity, cultural values, and most importantly, to educate and to orientate our younger generations in this 21st century. In the sacred valleys of Bhutan, where the teachings of the Buddha form the bedrock of our way of life, the monastic body holds a profound responsibility to safeguard and guide the spiritual well-being of nation. As Bhutan continues to develop under the visionary philosophy of gross national happiness, or GNH, we, the monastic community, offer this reflection on the spiritual dimensions of happiness-centered development. True happiness, as taught by Buddha, is not a fleeting sensation depending on external circumstances. Instead, a deep inner peace cultivated through wisdom, compassion, and ethical living. Development that is centered on happiness must therefore begin with the transformation of our mind. Without this spiritual foundation, material progress alone cannot bring the lasting fulfillment. The four pillars of GNH, the good governance, sustainable socio-economic development, preservation of culture, and environmental conservation, resonate deeply with Buddhist principles. They mirror the Noble Eightfold Path, which encourages right view, right intention, and right action, so and so, in every sphere of our life. When policies and systems are guided by compassion and non-attachment, they give rise to society that nurture both inner and outer well-being. As monastic, we emphasize the cultivation of mindfulness, ethical conduct, and altruism. These are the seeds of both individual happiness as well as collective harmony. In the face of modern challenges such as consumerism, mental stress, and ecological degradation, spiritual practice offers a timeless compass. Meditation, contemplation, and ethical reflection must be integrated into education, governance, and daily life to ensure that development serves not only the body but also to the heart. We also see the monastic body as a vital partner in nurturing the moral and spiritual consciousness of the nation. Through teaching, example, and a compassionate service, we seek to awaken in every citizen the understanding that happiness arises from inner contentment, not mere accumulation. In this light, the GNH vision is not merely a policy framework, but a living expression of the Dharma. As this philosophy that, as the spiritual and moral compass of the country, the central monastic body influences GNH across all four of its pillar and 9 domains. To little highlight with the breakdown of its contribution. Number 1, promoting culture and spiritual values, which correlates with the GNH pillar of preservation and promotion of culture. The monastic body is the guardian of Buddhist teaching, ritual, the Bhutanese culture heritage. Through monastic education, festivals like during Sechus and public teachings, it instills values such as compassion, mindfulness, ethical conduct, and contentment, which is the core principle that underpin the GNH. This value also encourages non-materialistic lifestyle and develop a sense of collective identity grounded in the Bhutanese tradition. Number 2, fostering mental and emotional well-being, which again correlates with the GNH domain of psychological well-being. Here, the monastic personnel provide spiritual guidance and counseling to individuals and communities. Again, practical like meditation, prayer, and mindfulness offered by monks contribute to psychological resilience and inner peace. The monastic body's presence in both rural and urban, in Bhutan as well as in international areas, helps address emotional and concerns across the population. Number 3, encouraging environmental ethics, which again correlates with the GNH pillar of environmental conservation. Buddhist philosophy emphasizes interdependence and compassion for all sentient beings, which translate into reverence for the Mother Earth. The monastic body actively supports environmental preservation efforts, including tree plantation, water source protection, and advocating against exploitation of natural resources. Number 4, supporting equitable and justice society, which again correlates with the good governance of GNH pillar. As a mission, as a subject of change, as a follower of Buddha, we serve as a moral check and balance on governments by offering holistic approaches in the government from a spiritual and ethical standpoint. It again encourages practices in national decision makings. Again, we participate or we partake in the ceremonies such as the opening of parliament on coronation of our beloved monarchs, which again symbolizes the harmony between the religion and the state in Bhutan. This value also encourages ethical leadership and non-corrupt practices through its teachings. Number 5, providing education and social service, which is one of the benchmark development or transformation that the Central Management Body has initiated, which again correlates with the GNH domains of education or community vitality. Central Monastic Body or monastic institution in Bhutan operates monastic schools and institutes that not only contributes to the monastic body, but also contribute to the spiritual and ethical education, complementing modern education system. So in many rurals, our local participants as well as the visitors international may have observed that monks serve as informal educators, healers, and community leaders, helping sustain strong community bonds. Again, during crises like natural disasters or during the COVID pandemic, the monastic body engage in prayer ceremonies, relief efforts, and psychological support. The Central Monastic Body is not just a religious institution, it is an active agent in Bhutan's GNH framework, shaping national identity, supporting societal well-being, and promoting a compassionate, sustainable, and spiritually grounded way of life. Its influence helps balance material development with the inner and collective happiness of Bhutanese society, which combines which reinforces the two principles of upaya and prashna. In conclusion, happiness-centered development in Bhutan must continue to be rooted in the spiritual soil of our Buddhist heritage. Only by grounding progress in wisdom and compassion, we can ensure that our journey today and the future will lead us not only to prosperity, but to the liberation from suffering for all beings. May the vision of GNH flourish in harmony with the Dharma, and may Bhutan continue to shine as a beacon of enlightened development in the world. With this, I would like to thank very much for giving privilege to represent or to talk on behalf of the Central Monastic Body. Thank you very much, and Tashitele.
Thank you, Khenpo Chotendoji, for the wonderful insights. I'm sure now we are all grounded into why we are here and the purpose behind the two-day conference. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for tea. I'm sure most of you all might have been excited for this. Before we break for tea, we have something special. An exhibition has been set up on this side of the hall, and it brings to life many things that we have heard this morning. And I won't spoil it for you because seeing is believing, and sometimes more enlightening than another speech. All right, so it is now my honor to invite Her Majesty the Queen Mother to inaugurate the exhibition. We'll break for tea and the exhibition now, but please be back promptly. It is 11:45, so 15 minutes for tea. 12 we'll begin the next session with our first theme. I hope the tea did its job to revitalize from the early morning speeches. And I hope no one got lost in too many snacks. Those who are still lost, you can come back to your chairs. We'll now begin with our next session. Now that our minds are fed and spirits stirred with some tea, let's dive into the heart of today's program. We will move on from pondering happiness to shaping the systems that can sustain it. So our first theme for the two-day conference, of course, we had the grounding session in the morning. Our first theme for the two-day conference is meaning of development and the need for a mindset shift. To begin with, we'll have to ask a deceptively simple question. What does it mean to develop? Does it mean in GDP figures or buildings per square meter? Or in who are we becoming? So we'll explore that and how can we relate to one another and what kind of future we are actually creating. So to take us into that exploration, I would like to have on stage Ms. Divyanshi Chok. She is a transformative educator and CEO of Purnam Center for Integrality, where she blends spirituality and education to nurture self-awareness and purpose. Her work helps people align with their personal growth with collective well-being. Please join me in welcoming Divyanshi Chok to the stage.
Namaste, everyone. I'd like to thank Your Majesty's leadership in upholding cross-national happiness as a guiding light for governance that stands as a beacon for the world. The topic that I have been asked to explore today is what does it mean to truly develop? And without further ado, we'll dive right in. Now see, if a plant is healthy and fit, we can say it is happy and progressing well. What about animals? If an animal is healthy, fit, and feels his family is well protected, then we can say he's doing well. What about humans? Is being healthy and fit good enough? What if one's relationships are not doing well? Does one feel happy in life? What if one is not feeling a sense of progress, a sense of creativity at work? One feels a sense of stagnation, a purposelessness, a meaninglessness. And yet, human beings are so complex that human beings can have a perfect personal life, a perfect professional life, and can still feel empty on the inside. And at the same time, our Eastern wisdom tells us that it is very well possible to feel full and blissful without material, social, and emotional needs being met in the usual way that we understand it. Well, this is because we are fundamentally spiritual beings. It's not like we have a soul. It's like our souls have a mind, our souls have a body, our souls have emotions as instruments. Animals and plants are also expressions of the spirit, but they are more spontaneous expressions of the spirit. A flower is not thinking, how do I bloom? What is my purpose of life? It's just spontaneously blossoming. As a human being, on the other hand, we have this capacity to become a self-aware and conscious expression of the spirit. It is For this reason, we seek to discover, who am I? Why have I come on earth? What is my purpose in life? Life after life, we take birth on earth. It cannot just be to live a very superficial material life. There has got to be a deeper purpose to life, a deeper purpose to earth. And it is for this reason, as human beings, we can never fully feel full when we are only and only achieving and developing outwardly. We thus seek to develop within. But what does it mean to truly develop within? And actually, the inner development forms the foundation of outer development. Because if one is not inwardly developing, then whatever outer development one fosters or goes after is pretty superficial in character. Now let us look at what does it mean to develop within. Now the mother, Mira Alfasa, Sri Aurobindo's spiritual collaborator, in one of her talks she defines it as there are two particular aspects of inner development. The first is peace, the second is progress. And then she makes a tongue-in-cheek remark. She says, but you know what? Most of us, we are really just seeking after peace. Hardly any one of us is truly, really seeking after progress. But progress is really the reason why we've taken birth on earth. And it is really the call of our times when the planet is going through a massive crisis. So let us first look at peace. As all spiritual traditions will tell us, peace is not attained through outer fulfillment. It is not something to be chased on the outside. One of the biggest mistakes of our current paradigm is we try to use material means to fulfill our psychological and spiritual needs. It's a fallacy. So peace is something to be discovered within. As Taittiriya Upanishads say, from delight indeed all beings are born, by delight they live and grow, into delight they enter at their passing. And we see it most vividly in children. Children don't really require a reason to be happy. They are happy just for existing. They will be happy to see the orange of a color. They'll be happy to see a carrot and explore the carrot for the first time. They're naturally happy and blossoming. It is because in our true and deep nature, we are this deep peace and happiness that we seem to be superficially seeking after. Now let us look at the second element of progress. While progress, first and foremost, contrary to where the current paradigm is headed, begins with purification of the ego. Otherwise, most of the time, the ego is busy with very superficial worldly concern. What do I get? What do I lose? You know, I like pleasure. I'm attached to pleasure. I'm averse to pain. I like praise. I like fame. But I don't like blame and bad reputation. Unless and until we evolve and purify at this level of purification of the ego, no amount of outer systemic change is going to be real, true, and transformative. So from the purification of the ego comes the discovery of who I really am. Am I this identity? Am I this position? Am I this title that I hold, this degree that I have done? Who am I truly? I am the divine in expression. And this is the second aspect of inner progress. The third is the development of our faculties. Our modern education system primarily focus on academic mental development. Even in the name of extracurricular activities, we go only so far to develop a little bit of the body and a little bit of our vitality. But unless and until we discover the science and art of developing our emotions, what does it mean to be emotionally empathetic, emotionally sensitive, emotionally understanding, to read that which is not spoken? And unless and until we know how do you master energy and use energy as a force to serve a higher purpose and not just a force to fulfill one's own limited, narrow, egoistic ambitions. And what does it mean to have a control over senses, a refinement of senses? What does it mean to truly enjoy life? Then the education is not complete. So when all three of these, a purified ego, discovery of who one truly is, the development of one's faculty comes at the service of a higher purpose, one begins to truly progress. Now let us look at what does it mean to develop as a collective. Before that, let us look at what is a collective. Is collective merely a group of individuals, or is it something more? Just like an individual has the soul and its 5 instruments, the society also has the soul and its 5 instruments. For instance, as an individual, we have the mind. As a collective, as a society, we have the department, or we have the element of education. As an individual, we have emotions. As a collective, we have family, marriage, community. As an individual, we have energy. And as a collective, we have entrepreneurship. As an individual, we have senses. As a collective, we have art, theater, restaurants. As an individual, we have the body. And as a collective, we have the environment and the architecture. Now, the most supreme part. As an individual, we have a soul. And as a collective, we have a soul culture. Every collective, every nation is not just a state, it is a soul in action. Now, what do I mean by that? And this is the most important part, because you see, if the soul element is not there, then entrepreneurship becomes the pursuit of earning money for the sake of earning money. Money is a means, it is not a goal. So when the element of soul values is absent from the society, then any amount of development in any of the social elements doesn't really carry the essence of our being, the essence of development. So let us look at what about the soul culture. The first element is each soul culture is unique. What do I mean by that? Of course, every culture is a unique expression of the divinity. The way we dress up, for instance, in Rajasthan is very different from how we dress up in Bhutan. It's very different to how we dress up in Gujarat. And this infinite variety that we find it in food also. One of the things that I often wonder is, at the end of the day, food is fuel for the body. And God could have just made, a little bit of fuel, you go take fuel, and you live about rest of the day. But, God chose to give us this infinite variety when it comes to each and every dimension of life. And that's an expression of the God's love. So this culture is not just manifest outwardly, that each culture is unique, but each culture is unique in the sense each culture, each soul culture has a unique and special gift to offer to the world. And the way I see it, the gift that countries like India and Bhutan have to offer to the world is the gift of spirituality. That is the true and deep purpose of the existence of these very nations. And these must exist not just for its own sake, but for the contribution it has to make as a leader on the global platform. Because today, if there is one thing that globally, with increasing depression rates, with an ecological crisis, the one thing that is really, really needed is the spiritual gift of East to the world. And it is not a coincidence that Bhutan has initiated GNH and India is the birthplace of yoga. Just like it is the dharma of America to give the spirit of enterprise and innovation to the world, it is the dharma of countries like India and Bhutan to give spirituality to the world. The second aspect of the soul culture is that each culture seeks to realize deeper values. If you look at all nations, all societies across the world, somewhere they are pursuing, even if they may be pursuing it in a limited way, somewhere they are pursuing the Satyam Shivam Sundaram, somewhere they are pursuing the true, good and beautiful, which is why nations across the world have institutions of justice, have institutions of philanthropy, has institutions of poverty alleviation. It is because each culture seeks to realize the deeper soul values. Now, in order to really begin to cultivate these soul values, the foundation is really in education. This is what Mirra Alfasa, the mother, Sri Aurobindo spiritual collaborator, and also the founder of Auroville, the place where I come from. It's a small little city in the making in the south of India with individuals from 66 plus different nationalities who've come together to really explore what does it mean to build a new society from a new consciousness? What does it mean to redefine relationships? What does it mean to redefine work, education, or collectively even infrastructure, collectively economy, when the intention is to express the soul values in life? So she says that individuals will be able to grow and develop integrally without losing touch with their souls. Education would be given not for passing examinations or obtaining certificates and posts, but to enrich existing faculties and bring forth new ones. This does not mean that assessment in education is not important. What it means is the pursuit of certification, the pursuit of degree for the sake of it. That is a limitation. Similarly, in business, it's not like money is bad or business is bad, but the pursuit of money for its own sake, that is an issue. So, skill development is not the only aim of education. Soul development is the aim of education. And with soul development comes the development of wanting to serve. Yesterday over dinner, I was talking to somebody from the Tarayana Foundation, and I asked him, why is it that, you're doing this work that you're doing? He said, because I'm deeply fulfilled in the act of service. So in gross national happiness, if there is the single most indicator that contributes to happiness, is the feeling that I'm meaningfully contributing to the collective, that I am an instrument of service. So aim of education is not just skills, but also soul and service. And if one has to redefine education, one has to definitely redefine work also, because in the society where we live in, mostly education is supposed to train you to be a part of the workforce. Education is looked at as skill development to be able to be a part of the workforce. Mother Mirra Alfasa, she redefines work as work would not be a way to earn one's living, but a way to express oneself and to develop one's capacities and possibilities while being of service to the community as a whole. This is such a big shift in paradigm, because often we perceive work is a cost I have to pay. It's a burden on my shoulders in order to acquire. According to the materialist, consumerist paradigm, work is something I have to give to the society so that I can get the money, so that then I can enjoy life. Whereas work itself is an expression of joy in action. It's the space where one can really grow one's capacities and possibilities and the flowering of one's own soul. Now, this may feel like, oh, this is all very overly idealistic, but if there's one place that can really initiate something like this, it is a country like Bhutan. And one must also not forget that, it's not like we are we're not competing against GDP. It's not like GNH versus GDP. Like, Sir Andrew mentioned in the morning, that GDP is one part of the GNH, and GDP has its role to play in the sense it brings about material advancement, technological advancement, scientific development, material efficiency, growth of vitality, and several other things. The only biggest problem with it is These are all means. Technical advancement cannot be the aim of humanity on earth. Scientific development cannot be the aim of it all. These are means. So Oroville and places like Bhutan are establishing a new goal for the means given by economic growth. And for this to happen, spirituality must not just be one dimension of GNH. It must be the very foundation of it. And this may sound like, spirituality, isn't it very abstract and metaphysical? How can it be the foundation of GNH? Well, this is a very practical way to understand it. Let us look at environmental conservation. When it comes to environmental conservation, we can work on symptoms. We can work on, landfills. We can work on greening. But deeper than symptoms come systems, where we begin to start developing a cyclical economy and not just a linear economy. But deeper than that is a change in consciousness. When you truly and deeply care for Mother Nature, where you really feel, not just as a concept that, man and nature are one, but that the fact that nature is my mother. When you really experience, when we call it Mother Earth, when you really start to experience it as your mother, you will automatically build everything that is in resonance with that. So change of consciousness through education is really the foundation of the change that we are seeking. And with that, I'd like to conclude with saying that, especially, in this eastern part of the world, if we look at, the ancient age, it really focused on the attainment of the inner truth, of enlightenment, and slowly it was beginning to reject life. And as we've entered modern age, there's so much more focus on mastery over life. But one is rejecting the inner dimension, the softer dimension. And the future is a spiritual age wherein you master life through the attainment of inner truth. Not with, not and, through the attainment of inner truth. With that, I conclude my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Divyanshi, for running through your presentation, talking about development, attaining inner truth, balancing life. It was quite insightful, so thank you so much for your time and your presentation. Now, we often hear the word development, Your Majesty, being thrown around in plans and policies and on papers. But what does it really mean when it reaches our homes? When it reaches our communities, in our daily lives? What does development really mean? Our next session is a panel discussion, and it will take on that very question, what actually development means, and how do we translate the true meaning of development into something that people can see, something that people can feel and relate to, something human, not just technical. So to guide this important conversation, we have someone who brings both heart and rigor to the table. Please welcome Chimi P. Wandi, the Secretary General of Narayana Foundation and the moderator for the panel on translating the true meaning of development. Chimi, you have 40 minutes left.
Thank you. Could I invite the speakers on stage, please? Kembo Chanala. Kembo Uganamgil. We have Tasha Tashiomo, please. Secretary for a very important development sector. And we have Tash Song Rinze. I'm going to try and keep it very simple. We've not actually had discussions. Oh, sorry, Devansh. You've had your say so, but very important, very nicely put together.
It'll just be, I would like to very briefly, maybe, I think sometimes we take development to be very, take it seriously and maybe put only a head into it when you're drawing up plans and programs. But what about the heart? And so those are some of the things, the head and heart together, the connect. There has to be a conspiracy between the head and heart for things to work in an exciting and a spontaneous manner that is meaningful, intelligently so, but meaningful nevertheless, because that's when purpose comes into play. And without purpose, we've heard from previous speakers that if you do not have the sense of mission, a purpose of being able to serve, make your life useful, then what are you doing in furthering development or any other things in life? And so with the panelists, we hope to explore a little bit more on these. We would like to keep the panelists' viewpoints maybe to about 3-4 minutes each, and then we'll start with Kembogila. Palewe will come this side since we've already heard Devanshi's presentation. And we would like to open this up more as an interaction with the participants here, because all of you have come from long distances. I'm sure you have lived truths that you'd like to share also, and questions for the panelists. Thank you.
Last one. Thank you, Amchimi. First of all, I'd like to take Kuzangpo to all my guests. I'm grateful to the Gyomcho and Diana for inviting as a panel. I don't know about the heart and brain. It's more biological. I think we are more groomed in understanding what is body and mind. And I'll try to focus more on body and mind. Before that, I just want to even share, in 1986, our fourth king, King Jimsing Yangchu, when called a group of young school-going boys to join the monks. I mean, it's been almost 4 decades now. I'm one of them who are serving in a monastery in the country. And that was a vision when we talk of His Majesty's in development, wisdom, inspirations. So that's been put in our mind till now. Then I thank to His Majesty for giving us, nurturing us up to this day. So to serve the country, to serve the people, and serve the central monastic body. And basically, inner development, it's been a very common language that we spiritual people use to lay people, finding the truth, reaching the blessing. But very simple question. Inner development is nothing but an inspiration to understand where you are, where you want to go. And in Buddhism, we have a very technical language called Do, which means refuge. I take refuge to Buddha. I take refuge to Dharma. I take refuge to Sangha, which means, moment when they refuge, it means that you have a problem. You are weak, or you are not enlightened. Or other way, we call you are sentient, which means you are sentient being, and you want to become Buddha. And yesterday I talked to Andrew, and Andrew was saying, Gandhiji said that enlightenment means sharing. Definitely, enlightenment means sharing. After becoming enlightened, what are you going to do? He was wondered, just stay like that, and it's no worth being enlightened. It's true, Andrew. To become enlightened, you have to go this process, and then you have to benefit all sentient beings. Whether you put into account animal and other sentient beings is a different thing. Definitely, we always plan and make policies in our life, in our religion, on the human beings. So we talk the human beings. Refuge means you're not enlightened. I take refuge to Buddha means, in very English language, I want to become like you, gentleman, Sakyamuni, because you seem to be very good. You seem to be potential. You seem to be compassionate. You seem to be loving, kind. So that is the thing that development means. In development, again, you have heard of this very simple advices by your parents, by ancestors, by your teachers, by spiritual things. Gewachu, 10 wholesome actions. 3 by the body, 4 by the speech, 3 by the mind. These are the few things you have to understand. This is the thing, daily development you need to do, changes in the body. In the sense, abstaining from killing. When I say killing means like violence nowadays. Abstaining from sexual misconduct, whether it is, it may depend on culture to culture, but definitely it's not good, it's not healthy. And then abstaining from, what call that? Killing, sexual misconduct, and then stealing. So this is the basic things, you know. This is the grandfather's advice. You don't need a great guru with a big turban and yellow dresses or orange dresses, sadhus to advise you. This is your mother gives you. This is what the Tarayana is giving to every corner of the world. That's why I was explaining to Andrew yesterday. The Tarayana reached to every corner of the world. And now it's a transformation to next generation. He was talking of technology. That is right. It's the right time now. Because Aji Gyum has brought that one generation up to this stage. Now next generation, you're bringing to technology, educations, civilizations, such things. That's why we are also being a part of development. So you have to understand that thing. The 4 things, your example, you're talking about speech, you're talking about mind. I think we have to be very simple in practicing, not even a religion. We don't talk religion. Let's talk inner development. That's much better. Because when you put word religion, spiritual, then it becomes very complicated in your mind. Then you think that one ritual is there, one thanga is there, one mala is there, one guru is there. So it makes so complicated for you to practice. So in the beginning, I don't think you need such things. In the beginning, I think you need a good advice. That's why that madam was talking of progressing, education. So these are the basic things. The monastic, central monastic is, as our secretary was saying, central monastic is doing that work. That's our responsibility. We wear monk robe. When you practice, you don't have to become monk. Don't even imagine to become monk. To be good, you just be a good human being. What work you have, what you have, what type of relations you have, with that, you try to make development. That makes much peace and happiness. Happiness, peace is it depends on person to person. Don't think peace and happiness is a very permanent, which we can grab from the store or one formula of practices. It's not like that. It's a daily practices. So I think I don't want to take much time. I'll have more explanation in next session. Thank you, Amchimi.
Thank you, Kempo, for starting the conversation on the mind-body, balancing the need for that as well. If it's okay with the panelists, could we just do a quick, roughly 3-4 minutes, and then we'll see how far we've progressed, and if we've made good enough substrata, then we could ask questions from the floor. If not, we'd do another round of short sessions. Tasho?
Your Majesty, distinguished guests, it's such an honor and humbling moment for me to be part of this very enlightened discussion, rather, after listening to a very profound address by Her Majesty and also other distinguished speakers. I think there is very little for me left to speak about GNH. I think it's a given that we all have imbibed into our daily lives. So perhaps to do justice to why I am here, I would like to talk at 2 levels. One at the personal level, and second, since I come from the Ministry of Industry, Commerce and Employment, which actually encompasses a lot of the economic development, social aspects. So let me try to share something along that line. On the personal note, I would like to join my young colleague who earlier shared how he is living GNH. So am I. To me, development means having to get up early in the morning, breathing fresh air, being very much surrounded by lush green vegetation around, and knowing that I'm going into the community where I'm being showered with loads of love, affection, and care. So this is what I live every day. So then I go back, every morning I drive from home to the office. Every day I feel so lucky and blessed to be the citizen of Bhutan. And who do I thank? Of course, our leadership, our leaders. And particularly so in this conference, this is actually dedicated to His Majesty the Fourth King, who was the architect of GNH. I go back every single day feeling how I live GNH every day. And now me living in GNH is not enough. This has to be passed down onto the next level. Institutionally, this is very much captured, starting from our Constitution, where Article 9 actually of the Constitution stipulates that government, the state shall endeavor to promote those conditions that will enable the pursuit of cross-national happiness. And that's very powerful. And likewise, in the Constitution, we have many other articles that actually articulates very well, captures the four pillars of GNH. Now, how do we translate that into actual development plans? I'm sure many of our friends here in Bhutanese, we have been doing a lot of soul searching on our what is the next level of development that we need to take. While GNH has served us, will continue to serve, but also now we need to also look at GDP growth. So therefore, in the 13th five-year plan, economic transformation is the key focus. And as part of it, government has recently launched 21st Century Economic Roadmap. With all these, we still keep our promise, our values, and we are still grounded by our pillars of GNH. So therefore, we are quite actually not living the past and moving into the future. What has grounded us, we are continuing, and we will in the future as well. And one of the most, again, inspiring thing is His Majesty the King's vision of Galvan Mindfulness City, which is the expression of this path. And it is not just a smart city or economic zone, it is going to be a gateway of values. A place where prosperity and purpose meet, designed to carry Bhutan's unique development legacy into the future, blending tradition, technology, and well-being for the region and the world. I would like to also touch upon, while at the government setting, we have all these policies and development plans, how do we work very closely with the CSOs, like Tarayana and like many other CSOs. And I was particularly very humbled when Her Majesty's address, how Tarayana over past 2 decades have brought the GNH practicality on the grassroots, and it has really done so. And I have personally experienced, because my ministry looks after the entrepreneurship, small businesses, it has been very easy for me. So whenever I go and visit a village and I talk to them, some products coming out, I say, how did you start? It was Tarayana supported. And it becomes very easy for us to pick up from there and build on. So that is again working in harmony, not just in institution alone, but cross, institution, government vis-a-vis civil society organizations. So therefore, I would just want to stop here without further ado. Thank you very much, and I look forward to more discussion.
you, Tasha. Thank you, Tasha. I think we'll move in straight into the next Tasha Tong. If you could share some of your experiences, thoughts on the very purpose of, development. Because oftentimes development for itself, I think, has no meaning. Why development is necessary is something that is also the question that boggles a lot of minds. And if it didn't, then we aren't on the right path somewhere. So, Tasha, you've been instrumental, the institution also has been institutional to bring up well-endowed citizens, and both in your current responsibility as well as in your previous, you were working to achieve those quite a bit, Las.
Yes, thank you, La. With deepest reverence, admiration and gratitude to Your Majesty for your leadership and all the amazing work that Narayana Foundation is doing. I am very thankful and honored to share a few thoughts at this panel. Just a little caveat. Through much of my professional life, I've been more an administrator than anything else. So whatever I share today, given the design of the panel, is more of an introspection, more personal views, and also thoughts from my own lived experience as an individual. Last year, on 17 December, during our National Day, His Majesty, in his royal address, gave the bureaucracy 10 years more to transform itself into an enlightened and an entrepreneurial entity, institution. I thought that was such a powerful proposition or a command, very much in keeping with the times we're living through. So I reflect a lot upon what does enlightened mean, what does entrepreneurial mean. And even for my opening remarks, I would like to draw from that. To me, that is something very pragmatic, that is something intergenerational, and I think very much in keeping with the theme of this conference. So with that in mind, I would like to look at development from the way we generally see development in terms of the physical, in terms of the tangible, in terms of the policies, the infrastructure that we build, the health, education, etc., etc. And then how do we relate it to individual growth? How do we relate that to human flourishing? So I would like to share three initial thoughts. Firstly, when we talk about development, particularly in the context of GNH, sufficiency comes to mind. As Her Majesty mentioned in her royal address, I think as a human entity, none of us will be happy if we are dependent. So I think first and foremost, sufficiency needs to be established. And we all know the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And that is where I think foundations like Narayana are doing amazing work to ensure sufficiency, to ensure that people across the country attain sufficiency so that they transition from being dependent into being empowered to live independent lives. And I think that's, as Her Majesty mentioned, tremendously powerful. Secondly, I would like to share about balance. I think development, whether we talk in terms of the policies, the infrastructure, the tangible, the visible, or we talk about the inner engineering aspect of it, I think it's all about balance. And maybe perhaps because we are seated in this amazing Tunkadzong Founders Hall, I think we can draw from this very institution, from this very structure, what balance could look like. From the environment in which this institution is built, to the balance that is brought in terms of the architectural grandeur of this building, the dome, with all the modern amenities, the technologies that is there, the latest state-of-the-art facilities, the beautiful paintings, the woodwork, to creating this very platform on which we discuss balance. So I think, I thought this is a powerful example of what balance could mean in terms of development. And thirdly, I would like to briefly share about collective well-being. Now, before I became the Vice Chancellor, I was working at the Royal Institute for Governance and Strategic Studies in Phensuling, doing a lot of leadership programs. And of course, one thing I realized, I'll always remain a student of leadership. But in leadership, as much as in spirituality, I think real selflessness, real sacrifice, real leadership is really about living your life for others. So I thought in terms of what development really means, I think it's really about how we look after each other, how we grow into enlightened entities that we're all capable of, so that we care as much about others as we care about ourselves, if not more about others. So I thought this collective well-being, the intention and the willingness, the intuition to be of service to somebody else, to bring a smile on somebody else's face, I thought that should be about development, especially looking at the human aspect of development. Thank you.
Thank you, Tasha. And I think you've covered quite a bit of, you've also strengthened what Devanshi had earlier also mentioned. So we're kind of beginning to see a pattern here, Your Majesty, of more people needing to be selfless in their service in order to create a better society, better lived experiences for everyone. So that's sort of something that's coming quite strong. Devanshi, do you want to add anything further to what you had earlier? Yeah, we'll open. Okay, so we will go in for one round of questions from the audience. I think there are mics around. I would request volunteers. If there are any questions to any individual panelist, in general, please specify so that we can address it directly. But we're not going to give you all of the time. I still need to dig a little deeper so that they unpack what they know. Their lived truths cannot necessarily be summarized in 3 or 4 minutes. So that was unfair on my part to ask them to do that. So any questions from the audience? That's interesting. Either you're bedazzled by all of the brilliant thoughts out here, or is it too early to start the questions? Okay, maybe. Yes, mic here, please.
Hello? Apologise for that. My name's John Crawford of Glasgow, and I'm very interested in the comment that was made about the mindfulness city as a gateway of values. And I wonder if you could expand on that, because I sense it's a two-way gateway. A gateway of values from outside the country and a gateway from values inside the country to the outside. Could you maybe explain a little bit more how that might work?
If you don't mind, maybe we'll take a few more questions together and then, so any other questions? Eager questions? No questions? Okay, this,
Hello. Thank you. My name's Harry Cockrell from Hong Kong. My question is really directed to Givenchy. I had the pleasure of being in Oroville for Mother's birthday in February together with my wife. It was a wonderful experience that we had, but it's something that started in the 1920s. And today, it's only limited to Oroville in Pondicherry. With such a fabulous experiment and development, is way beyond an experiment. How do you take this one physical location?
okay, the third question. Okay. Yeah. I think Christina had a question, is it? Okay, and Dr. John, I think there's a presentation for tomorrow morning. They'll talk a little bit more detail about the GMC, the Galifo Mindfulness City. Mr. Rapsel, the head of comms from that team, he's coming from the core team. He will be here to make that presentation. So I don't know whether you want to be patient or you want to hear it from not the head of the comms persons.
Okay, I have a mic. Christina Stevens with Evolution Love Corp. In terms of education, which is like the basis, it's the key of GNH, this understanding. And the spiritual component, I live in the United States, and unfortunately that's a component that is just not in the educational system. But is there a plan, or can we make a plan to get this out into the world, because it's just not happening, and it's so vital in the beyond when we leave here. If I may be of service, whatever, but I would love to begin working on this. It's key.
Thank you, Christina, for that question and also the offer. Maybe anyone for the education one, would you like to attempt? Tarsong Tandem. There's one more question? I thought we were going to cap it. Any burning question? Oh, Sneha wanted one question. Sneha wants a question. This is Sneha's show and she wants a question. Okay.
Okay, the question. Yes, that how do we translate the meaning of development for the youth? Because when they come out of college or schools, generally the idea is to jobs and then the career path, which is a linear path. But in that process, a lot of other dimensions of life are, and sometimes the meaning of development is just more infrastructure and more income and more consumption. So how do we inculcate actually the meaning of development in the youth?
Thank you, Sneha, for that question. The Oroville question, if you want to answer that.
Thank you for the question. Oroville was officially founded in 1968 with little children coming from more than 120 nations and putting a handful of soil in the urn. And at that time there was also a UNESCO ratified document that said that this is, something for humanity as a whole. This is an attempt which is for humanity as a whole. And it was quite amazing at that time for nations across the world to accept the building of a city with the divine at the heart and center of it. It's a question that we receive in Oroville very often that, what is your impact in the world? Today we are 3,000 residents from 60 different nationalities. If I include volunteers and employees, 15,000 people. The 15,000 nothing in front of the global population, right? So the question that is often put to us is that, how are you impacting? One part of the answer is that, very actually or structurally, how Oroville has been a pioneer, particularly in the field of sustainability, in the field of education. It has inspired several movements across India, across the world. But I think that's only a surface sort of an answer. I think the deeper thing of what is being attempted in the form of Oroville, or even in the form of the mindfulness city that is coming about, it's a way to say that if it can happen here, then it can happen anywhere in the world. And in Oroville, it is not easy. I mean, you have a husband and a wife, and there's a whole lot of disagreement between two people. You have people from 60 different nationalities, 60 different value systems to come and agree that, this is how we would like to do ideal education. Is a very, very difficult and a mammoth task. So it's a bit like, in India we call it a collective yajna. It's like, we do a havan. So it's like a collective yajna where people from across the world are participating to light a collective fire. That's why it's called the City of Dawn. And Oroville in many ways is much more about evolution than for scale. I think Her Majesty had also mentioned in her speech that scaling will not mean that you take one thing and you scale it up. It will mean amplification, right? So in Oroville, what is being attempted is how can we evolve even if we're doing it at a very small scale, at a very small level, how can we evolve it to the next level, to the best of our capacity, to the best of our possibility? And it is quite a difficult task. I mean, I work in education. It's very difficult. One is, yes, of course, all of us who are working, we have a certain vision of how new education is meant to be. But to actually live it, to embody it as a collective, is a very, very mammoth task. So the attempt in Oroville is in the direction of evolution, but certainly there are several attempts to sort of make the bridge between Oroville and the rest of the world. One of the works is the works that, for instance, I do. We hold an online community of seekers who don't want to leave life to become a sannyasi or to become a monk, but who want to live an ordinary life. But within their ordinary life, they want meaning, they want purpose, they want spiritual progress. So how do you enable that? Now with that as an intention, we've created a community. It's an online community. We are trying to take out the wisdom of Sri Aurobindo and the mother, the founders of Oroville, to the world in easy, simple, experiential, transformative ways. That every dimension of life, for instance, art can be for its own sake, and art can also be very profane, but art can also be something very sacred. So in any dimension of life, one can bring out spirituality. That is what we are trying to do in our humble way. You also mentioned about, spiritual education sort of reaching out, and that's what we are attempting to do in the institute that we hold. Again, it's a small and a humble attempt. I'm not claiming that, but the attempt is there, the fire is there, and I feel when the fire is there, it will ignite. It's a bit like the 100-monkey experiment. I know some scientists doubt the efficacy of the 100-monkey experiment, but according to the 100-monkey experiments, if 100 monkeys on an island change, then somehow the monkeys all over the world change. So, many times people come to Auroville, they think it's an utopia. It's not an utopia. Mother called it's a laboratory of all the difficulties of the world. So we are the 100 monkeys. We're not here to build Auroville. It's a bit like a rat in an experiment. And that experiment is the light that will eventually ignite the light in the world. It is with that hope that the experiment is being done. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the good, interaction, explaining a little bit more about Auroville. I think we still haven't answered the linearity of, the realities that our youth face when they come out of our system, with education as the founding block. Any attempts?
It's a wonderful here. Thank you very much for enlightening questions. And it's really very challenging even to us, for the monks and for our central monastic body, because we feel that central monastic body is one of the oldest institutions, has a greatest responsibility in serving this youth, how to bring inner development, especially in school time, especially after school time, after colleges. And that is, I think, not a government's job. Our university has been always advising to us, and central body has started some of the services, like example, like Dharma talk, Dharma counseling, 37 yoga instructions, practices to the people, and sometimes we also go to schools, give teachings. And I know it's not sufficient, but still we find different innovative ideas how to interact with the younger generations, with the science and with the other what called expert agencies to work on that. And I feel that I think it's really very important, especially not only on the spiritual ground, but also in the philosophical ground. The teachings of the Buddha, when you say, it's not only a spiritual or religion, but it's also a philosophy of life. So we do talk of mindfulness. We do talk of many important issues. So this is the one thing which is very important in our country to find out ways to help out. And I will take this question very seriously. And thank you for that.
Yes, thank you, Lakembo. I don't know how many of you who are participating here are aware of the fact that in schools we do have lots of different clubs, extracurricular activity clubs, and Tarayana also has school clubs, voluntary school clubs. These are all volunteer members who are experimenting with the feel-good factor of having worked selflessly with some cause or the other. So in school they're learning through these clubs. It gives them the opportunities to explore selfless service, and whether they're cut out for that or not. We have more than 6,000 student members in that voluntary club. And I think in small ways like this, if they are already introduced to the philosophy of life, we don't tell them it's that, but that is what makes life worth living. And so when they discover it, self-discovery is a big factor. When they discover it for themselves, I think they will automatically find their North Star and stay true to course. So that's sort of, I just wanted to supplement on the education being linear. I think there's nothing linear actually. It's all very, very circular, circles within circles is how I see it. But okay, I don't know the MC, whether we still have a little time for maybe wrap up 3 minutes. I know we're a little over time for the lunch. Maybe lunch will wait just a little bit more. 2 minutes each for your closing thoughts. 5 minutes? Oh, okay, so 5 minutes. 1 minute each, I'm sorry.
Closing remarks is very simple. Be who you are. Be a wonderful person. That's the happiness. That's the inner development. And as others are very equally important as you are. So we live for us. We live together. Thank you.
Just would like to share how I practice the Buddhism deeply embedded in me. I see this principles very much applicable on everyday life. So when I come to the office, I look around, I treat my staff with respect, dignity, regardless of where their level, what level they serve at. And whenever they share their thoughts and ideas, I give a patient hearing and always give the benefit of the doubt that there would be value to it. And this is because I believe in collective wisdom and co-creation. Thank you.
Before I share my concluding remarks, just my 2 cents on education and spirituality. Of course, I'm just into my 6th month as the Vice Chancellor of the Royal University. But I just wanted to share that we do, as Bhutan, as this country that we are, I think we definitely have an upper hand in terms of sharing ideas surrounding mindfulness, personal growth and transformation, etc., etc., spirituality aspect of things. That having said, we also do have enormous challenges to deal with, to contend with internally. I just wanted to highlight on my recent visits to the colleges. I came across many college faculty and presidents, basically requesting the university to send them counselors, professional counselors. The younger generation having to deal with a lot of stress related to work or whatever it may be. So I think while we have an upper edge in terms of sharing with the rest of the world, many things around spirituality and personal transformation and growth, I also strongly feel that we need to do a lot of work to put our own house in order first. And particularly with regard to education and spirituality, holistic growth and development, I think this school where we are right now seated, the Trugalpos Institute, this is, I think, a model school, model educational entity where these things are very much taught and learned. So I really encourage you to have a conversation with Tashu Arun Kapoor and his faculty members here to learn more about the Bhutan Baccalaureate program and the holistic education that they provide here. Just my concluding thought, it's about really what development truly means. To me, development should be about having or creating the conditions where people like ourselves around the world have the opportunity to attain sufficiency so that they are not dependent on others, where people like ourselves or our fellow countrymen in the countryside, where we are at peace with ourselves and with others. And finally, development should, to me, also mean really about establishing deep human connections and forging respectful mutual relationship, harmonious relationship with the entire environment around us that supports life. Thank you very much.
I would probably conclude by sort of responding to Sneha's question very briefly. This is actually a very, very real thing in terms of youth And more youth are finding themselves very dissatisfied with the aims that the society has to offer them. They're feeling very dissatisfied with the way we've, treated our planet. And there is a growing sense of dissatisfaction, but at the same time, as they're young, they have a pressure of building a certain career. So it's a very, very real problem. And the solution that we've been able to sort of work out, as the solution that we see as a way forward, is to blend spirituality and career, and not to see it as two different pathways. Because one of the things that young spiritual seekers face is a certain double life, a certain dilemma. Whether do I take a spiritual path, or do I fulfill all my family responsibilities, all my social responsibilities? But what if work itself became a means of spiritual progress? And this is what I see, that you've done it in your life, and that is possibly the aim for the youth that are really searching for purpose and meaning, to find that depth through the pursuit of career, rather than amongst all the different things that the youth has on their shoulder, we're like holistic development also, integral development also. One more thing that you need to learn in what they do itself, work as service. I think a lot of us talked about, you mentioned also about education and entrepreneurship. Enlightenment and entrepreneurship. It's a question worth asking, how enlightenment and entrepreneurship can be together. Yesterday when we had the welcome dinner, it was in a restaurant founded by a spiritual master. Usually we see that, spiritual masters, people on the spiritual path, they let go of the material world. And people who walk the path on the material world, they walk the path on the material world for the sake of material fulfillment. But how can the two come together? And maybe career is the route to it. So with that, I would like to conclude. Thank you.
Thank you. Profound thank you to all very distinguished speakers on this panel. I was privileged to be your moderator. I don't think I did justice to it within the given time. But if you are attending the rest of the sessions, please make yourselves available for in-depth discussions with others who might have had questions but not had the time to ask. So with that, thank you once again for being part of this. Kadichala, thank you for a wonderful audience.
Plus, thank you, Moderator Amchimi, and all the panelists for your wonderful insights on what development means and the other aspects around it. Now, we had a presentation by Tarayana, but Tarayana told me we'll break for lunch. I was telling them, let's not take lunch because you all took too much time for tea break, and it was not so long ago. But then I realized I'm hungry myself, so we'll take lunch. It's 1:21 right now, so since I'm the MC, it's at my discretion, so we'll come back at 2, so that afternoon sessions do not go beyond 5 p.m. later. So yeah, we'll break for lunch, and we gather back again at 2 p.m. Please don't make me come around calling for you all to be seated again. Thus, Your Majesty will break for lunch.